bio is actually at the end of your PowerPoint handout, so you have it, but the highlights. He is the head of supply chain and logistics for Lakeland Industries in Elk Grove Village, as well as an adjunct professor at Elmhurst College's Supply Chain Management Master's Program. Each year, Tim mentors a group of graduate students in implementing a capstone project, and it is here that the HOPE Handbook came to fruition. It's really exciting to see. We talk a lot about employment in Connected Community, but it's great to see it sort of from the employer perspective and to see how hiring people with disabilities can really improve a business. So we're really happy to see that side of the story today. Expanding on his work with the HOPE Handbook, Tim is the co-founder of Teachability LLC, creating a means of matching candidates with disabilities with companies looking to start a disability hiring program. We're anxious to hear about that as well. So please help me welcome Tim.
I'm going to kind of share with you from an employer perspective our journey in developing a disability hiring program, and then also our approach and the results and what we're looking at and doing to further it into other companies. So with that being said, I want to start off today with a little video that we created of the program that we implemented at Lakeland Industries.
My name is Chris Dieters. I work for Lakeland Industries. I pick different products for different companies around the world. It took me a little while to get used to the job. I've never been in the setting before of a warehouse.
All my previous jobs were working out, so I figured he'd go back to help. So that's how I networked with Garrett. And he said, hey, I might have a job for you in mind. And at an interview, I got hired in June.
I knew that I needed to hire some folks who were having turnover issues. I had experience in hiring and working with folks with disabilities previously, and I thought that could be a great market to tap into for here.
It's been an awesome collaboration to be able to work with an external company from a college setting, but then also give our students that real life experience being given full-time employment. I always tell our students before they started is that I would never put them in a situation where they couldn't do the job, because I know that if they can do the job, we can work on the communication piece as we get there.
Well, the official role that I have here is a packer slash shipper.
Can I brag about you?
If you want to.
So William has very good attention to detail.
Based on his personality and his characteristics, we brought him in for that position, and he's really excelled.
All the jobs I had to do was part-time because this didn't have the kind of hours that they wanted, or they felt I wasn't qualified to work full-time.
Some of the managers I've had, they didn't really know how to work with people with disabilities, and that really got stressful in a job with Tim and Jim and Garrett and Elsa. They're helping me out. I think they're kind of getting to know us more with people with disabilities.
The supervising staff are more understanding than those in other places.
We're not training just the students, which I think this is how it's been done in the past. We're training the staff at LACO on how to work with our students. I think that's the biggest piece of this model is of why it works out. So what we did was we took away the unknown. You know what I'm saying? We communicated with them and saying, this is the strategy you should use. You know what I'm saying? This is how it will help you be successful. And then we also found natural supports that lie within. Those natural supports are other individuals who work congruently with our students. And our students will know from Elsa and our program how to advocate for themselves and how to ask questions. So then our students became more and more confident as they come on through here with kind of what they need to do on a daily basis, and also people to go to.
Our enabled workforce that was already here before took them under their wing like they were their big brothers. That aid, plus always having a positive attitude from our PWD workforce, started to change the overall culture.
I think bringing these guys in definitely motivated our group, motivated the company as a whole.
I've seen a huge change in the shipping department. I've seen a great camaraderie being developed. There just seems to be a great energy there that I haven't seen before.
I know ELSA is a great platform for what we're trying to do from a career standpoint. The curriculum and also the living independent piece morphs them together that once they graduate in 4 years, they will be ready to work full time.
As my dad kind of sort of maybe glibly remarked, he kind of thinks this job's kind of a godsend in a way. Well, I wouldn't say a couple bad parts like guts, but maybe it's luck or something, but this is the whole first one job I had in my life.
Maybe one day I'll become a supervisor or maybe something like that, a leadership role in the future. So we'll see what happens.
My confidence has grown since I started working here.
To tell you the truth, I kind of wish I had this job maybe like 5 years ago, but it is a good job, I would have to say. I think Elsa and here, they're doing a good job.
So that's the program that we implemented at Laco Industry based on the HOPE Handbook. One of the things I want to share with you is Laco is a 85-year-old company, privately held. It's a global manufacturer of industrial markers and plumbing supplies and various other types of chemical products that go out to the industrial workforce. In June 2017, we started our program. Before that, we had 0 people within the organization that had any type of disability. And I'm proud to say today, within our warehouse operations, 26% of our staff has some form of disability. As companies implement types of programs, there's interest in doing this, but there's always a question that's asked. And that question is, what's the return on that investment? So I want to share with you on the next slide here, here's the results that we've seen since our implementation. So we have seen an on-time order fill rate of 422 basis points. This means that we're getting orders in, out, and to our customers faster and on time, which is always good. We've improved our operating income by double digits. So as you're implementing programs, you want to have a return on the investment, and you also want to make sure that you're operating at where you're making money from a company perspective, and we're able to improve both of those. As well as we're able to reduce our operating costs within the warehouse by 15 basis points. And most importantly, we improved our turnover rate. So our turnover rate was about 44%, which is about average in the industrial and warehouse space. And right now it's down to 11%, which is a significant improvement. In fact, our staffing has been stable since we put this program in place. Another thing is safety. So one of the questions that was asked was, would it be safe for them to work in an industrial workplace? There's forklifts, there's machines that were making products. Would it be safe? And I'm proud to say in 24 months we've had 0 incidents within our operation. So the HOPE Handbook is really an idea that I came up with many, many years ago. My journey to create a disability hiring program started in 2008. I was working for a large retailer, and Randy Lewis and Walgreens started to highlight that they were implementing disability hiring programs within their warehouses across the U.S. and sent out a video, and that video landed at our executive team, and they say, hey, this is a great idea. We want to do this. Figure this out. And one of the first questions I did was I reached out to a lot of different agencies, and it was a great response and said, hey, we have people, here's the people, we can have them employed. But I had one question that bothered me, and it concerned me, and I wanted to know, was my facility ready to start a disability hiring program? Were we ready as a management team to manage differently and manage folks with disabilities? And I couldn't find anyone that could really evaluate the operation. So I left, and my career journeyed on, and I ended up working at Walgreens. So I got to learn how Randy and the team there implemented their program, their transitional work group program. And we opened up tours. We had lots of companies come in and tour our facilities and say, hey, this is great, we want to do this. And they had the same questions I had back in 2008. I don't know if we're ready. So one of the nice things about being an adjunct professor at Elmhurst is I get to mentor a group of students every year on their capstone project. And I had an idea of, well, what if we look at this from a supply chain perspective and develop a handbook that could help identify how to implement a disability hiring program. And that's what we built, and we called it HOPE. We broke it into 4 different components. Hiring, opportunity, preparedness is the most important component of that, and then the execution. And then as we were authoring this handbook, we wanted to go and test an implementation, and that test was at LACO. And so you're seeing the results of the work that we put into this handbook and the results of the program that we put in place. The drive for HOPE really is, right now everyone's talking about the unemployment rates. It's the lowest it's been since 1969. And a lot of companies are having struggles in finding people in their traditional means. So 40% of employers are having difficulty in filling positions. These signs are me just walking up and down the block that LACO is on. So everyone around our building, they're out looking for people to employ, and they're having struggles with this. 24% of the folks that I've seen research on, leading reasons for not finding folks is they don't even have anyone applying and trying to tap into different areas, and they're just not finding any folks available through the traditional means. And that's where we think we can do and make a difference from an employer perspective. A lot of options that companies go through, and I went through all of these heading up my operation. And we extended overtime, which is great, so people are making more money, but we're tiring them out. And everyone likes to have balance, so overtime is not always the solution. We also looked at increasing our temporary workforce and our partnerships with temporary agencies. But if there's no one in that candidate pool, it doesn't matter how many agencies you work with, there's nothing there. We also looked at increasing our pay, and we increased our pay to our workforce. But when you're working them overtime and they lose that balance, they're going to leave anyway. So making more money isn't always the solution. So the last one was finding an alternative pool of candidates, and that's what we looked at. We looked at, can we look into that untapped workforce of a disability workforce that are very much mainly capable and willing to work, but can we tap into that within was one of our options. So the options and the potential is the unemployment rate for folks that are willing and able to work that have some type of disability is more than double that of the able workforce. So there are folks out there that are willing and looking, and they're looking for full-time work. We just got to find those individuals and match them into the appropriate format. I'm proud to say at LACO, all of the folks that we have hired, they are working full-time. They're making the same wages as everyone else in the building. They're part of our union workforce. They get full benefits, and there is no difference between our people with disability workers or our able workers. We all look at each other as one. Out of the United States, these are some of the facts that I found, is that only 17.9% of people with a disability are employed. 10.5% is the unemployment rate, was the last one I was able to find. And almost 40% of folks have never been employed. So if you think of the traditional means of going out and applying for a job and finding folks to fill your jobs, one of the things that you ask for is, tell me about your work experience. Well, if I've never been employed, how can I give you anything about my work experience? So to me, I see that as a gap and a barrier, and that's something that we want to overcome. Also, workers with disabilities, they look at the traditional means. Most of them are, companies will take a chance on them, but we'll only put you in these jobs, these tasks. You can work part-time. I don't know that nervous energy of, can we really do this? And from my experience at Walgreens and at LACO, absolutely. Absolutely. These folks, They work as hard or better than some of our traditional folks. So it's just getting over that fear of the unknown from an employer perspective. So one thing is employees with disabilities have a higher absentee rate than employees without disabilities. DuPont study shows that employees with disabilities are not absent any more than employees without. My personal experience, they're absent less. It's great. I mean, the team that we have at LACO, they arrive 30 to 45 minutes early every day to work. And most of our traditional workforce, if they're not feeling good and they don't want to come in today, they're calling you 5 minutes before their shift starts. If they're going to miss a day, they're planning that out, and they're telling us 2 weeks ahead of time. Because they're worried about what's the perception. And so it allows us to plan accordingly for them not being there. So this absolutely is a myth in my opinion. Disabilities are unable to meet performance standards, thus making them a bad employment risk. Fact is 90% rated average or better in job performance. The folks that we have hired, they're performing better than our traditional workforce because they're more consistent. They have better attention to detail. So they have learned over the years how to advocate for themselves, but they're also very good at advocating and saying, hey, this isn't following the process that you told me. So they're very good at identifying that. So we've seen a much better performance from that. Accommodating a disability hiring program is costly. This is definitely one of the things I have heard over the years. Fact is 78% of costs are under $1,000. 51% of them are under $500. When I implemented and prepared the program at LACO, it didn't cost us anything. All we did was we looked at our operation and we looked at our training materials and our visual controls, and we just updated them. And the work that we did in preparation of starting a disability hiring program benefited not only for that team coming in, but everyone within the organization. So it was benefited for all for zero cost. So what was the process that we followed? One of the first things we did is we wanted to look at the operation. So we came in and did an observation. We looked at all of the jobs within the organization and said, out of the jobs, where would it be best to start a program? Instead of just taking someone and putting them into a job, we wanted to see where would it make the most sense. And what we looked for is more repeatable tasks as a starting point. So once we identified those areas, then we went in and did a survey. And I'll show you that survey. We looked at our current staffing condition, and we also looked at the local marketplace for talent and see where could we source folks. So from an observation process, are the job tasks able to be separated and performed by different individuals? Do they use computer equipment? Do you have to use forklift equipment? Do you need math skills? All those different criterias as you're trying to look at that operation and the tasks within that area. And then we documented those observations. After we documented those observations, then we went in and said, these are the top areas that we should focus in and dig a little bit deeper. As we did that, we did a survey, and we did a survey of the leadership team, but also the co-workers within that area, and asked them some very simple questions. One is, do you know anyone that has a disability? Have you ever worked with someone that has a disability? Would you be willing to work with someone that has a disability? If one of your team members required assistance, would you be willing to help them and assist them? So out of these types of questions, we got to feel what out of the workforce, their peers, would they be willing to go down this journey with us? And after that, we kind of stack ranked all of the responses and determined this is the area that we should start this program, because not only is the task ready for it, but the team's ready for it. And that's where we kind of started. Instead of just trying to do it everywhere, we honed in and starting as one starting point, and then perfect that, and then we can build upon it. The next phase is really the preparation, and here we broke it down into different steps of understanding the job, are there any modifications that's required, partner identification, most importantly sensitivity training, and then creating a safe zone. And I'll walk through those. From a understanding of the job, so we had them come in, so they went through the new employee orientation, and they did the actual job training. And as they were being trained, they documented the steps, each one of them, and rated them 1 to 3. So a 1 is it's pretty intuitive to understand. A 2 is a little bit more difficult and I have to ask. A 3 means I needed retraining. And as what we did is, as they looked at that, the team said, all right, let's look at the 3s and how do we simplify the processes to get them down to a 1? And would it be training materials? Would it be visual controls? Would it be just a little checklist worksheet for someone to follow? And that's kind of what we built through the first training process. We implemented that. That was one of the first steps, and that was an easy step for us to do. And not only did it benefit our current employees, but every new hire that came into the building. Next thing is we went out and looked at how do we hire. Some companies, in different companies follow different programs. They have a temp to perm program, which is they partner with temporary agencies. Some they do direct hire. As soon as you come in, you're a new employee and you get all the benefits and you're raring to go. And then other ones, you're working through staffing agencies to find the workers for you. And there's a gamut. So at LACO, most of our workers come in through a temporary agency. And after 60 days, we start the transition process of converting them to full-time. For our PWD initiative, we brought these folks in direct hire right away because we did a different type of matching process to get them in the board, and I'll show that here in a minute. And then we identified local agencies, and with us, that was the great thing of me working at Elmhurst College is I was able to tap into the ELSA program and hire graduates of the ELSA program as we started our journey. And then we also looked for employer networks, not-for-profits. We have hired other individuals outside of the ELSA program now, and it's because they've heard of the program that we are implementing and they've contacted us directly. Sensitivity training with any new program requires some type of training. So we focused, Garrett in the video talked about how we really trained the management team and how to work with folks with disabilities. And we did a series of trainings and videos. We did what-if scenarios and role-playing, all that type of stuff to prepare the team. Because in businesses, most managers and supervisors, they don't engage with their staff unless there's a problem, something they need to work on. And what I've learned over the years is someone that has a disability, they like the positive reinforcement. If you're only working and communicating with them when they have a problem, they internalize that and they get overwhelmed by that conversation and they feel like they're in trouble. And then because they fixate on that, their performance goes down because they're so worried about being in trouble. And we wanted to reteach our management staff that over-communicating is a good thing. And we put in a program that we called the positive sandwich. So that positive sandwich is you start, whenever you interact, you start with a positive statement. Then you talk about what you should work on. And then you end with a positive statement. And we increased our communication. So instead of just talking to someone when there's a situation, it's throughout the day, hey, how you doing? You're doing a great job today. I love your effort. We need to get these orders out. Thank you for doing what you're doing. And just those little things throughout the day has made a big difference. And not only do we do this with our folks that have disabilities, we do this with everyone. And we've seen a better performance across the entire board. And most importantly, we've seen an improved morale across the organization because they're taking more pride. One of the things that we also talked about is interviewing. So when you go to interview someone that is traditional, you're asking a lot of questions. Tell me about your work history. Tell me what you've done. What do you like? What do you don't like? Those types of things. And sometimes you can ask lots of questions really, really fast. Or you don't allow enough time for someone to process and answer. So we found this video, I'm going to show it to you, that we showed with our management team to give them a perspective of someone that has a disability and how they interpret someone giving them interview questions.
Is it Steve? Please, follow me.
Congrats on all the awards. So, tell me about yourself.
So, what would you say your strengths and weaknesses are?
Really? You don't look it.
Just so you know, the role has changed ever so slightly, but it's nothing major.
Let's find out a bit about you. So what experience do you have? What skills, what abilities? Anything?
That doesn't seem like you've had a job for a few months.
6 months? A year? Why is that?
Okay. It's nice to meet you.
Thanks. We'll be in touch. Are you okay?
I'm not unemployable. I'm autistic. And sometimes I get too much information.
Teams or management teams and how to interview more effectively. A key component that we asked the team was how many of you enjoy going in and interviewing, and when you go into an interview you don't stress at all. And everyone's looking around and like, yeah, none of us like interviewing. All right, now so add an element of having a disability that had not had a lot of success in having a job or a lot of experience in working. So we wanted to put them into that situation and see it from a different way. And then we created different questions and allowed them to, when we did role playing when interviewing, and how to take a pause and let someone answer a question. Because most of us in the business world, we've gone through HR hiring training, and some of the things that we have learned over the years is if someone doesn't look at you eye to eye, they're not being honest with you. If they're taking too long to answer a question, they're making up an answer for you. Maybe they don't know. And what we wanted to explain and convey to the team is that some folks with disabilities take time to process how they want to answer. And they're really thinking about how to answer in an appropriate way versus making something up. And it's okay to pause and understand what they're trying to say to you. And that was a lot of the training that we talked about, having certain folks come in. Another component is in managing a person with disability. We are all unique in our own way. A person with a disability is no different. Everyone is unique. There's a big range of different disabilities, as you all know. And everyone reacts differently in different situations. So we wanted to employ and have folks get to know each member individually and what allows them to perform at the high level and what are their stressors. And when you see what their stressors are, how do you look at them, talk to them, and put them in a safe way so they can work through those stressors. So one of the things that we created was a safe zone. So we took a conference room and converted it into a safe zone. So anyone that's having a bad moment, a bad day, and they just need some time to collect themselves, all they need to do is say a single word that they picked, and they can go into their safe zone and collect themselves. And that's been a big success for us. And for us, the team, they picked, the word for them is I'm having a home day. Because every one of them live at home, and situations that happen at home, they bring with them. And if it's a situation that's happening within their home life, they really worry about it. And they just can't separate home versus work. So when they're having those moments, and we can just tell that they're distracted or they're off or something's bothering them, we ask them, and they say, hey, I'm just having a home day. So then we allow them to go in and say, do you want to talk about it? And it allows them to kind of get it off their chest and talk, and then go back and focus on what they need to do so they can be safe within the workplace. So those are some of the little things that we did at LACO to really prepare the team for the next phase, so that's the implementation. One of the things we did is we wanted to change the model. Knowing that 40% of folks have never had a job, so don't have experience, or they have experience in jobs, stocking shelves, bagging groceries, getting carts, and working in food service, they might not be to the best of their characteristics. And in the business world, what we have done over the years is every job that we have identified job competencies. So these are the competencies that we're looking for an individual to have to be able to perform this job at the highest level. So we took those job competencies, and what we did was we created this form. There's 20 questions on this form, and it really looks at a person's characteristics. So what are your characteristics? Are you a great listener? Are you one that can overcome different situations and problem solve? And based on those characteristics, we did a match to the job competency. So William, in the video where his dad said this job is a godsend for him, William's 35 years old. He's never had a full-time job. The longest time he's ever been employed has been 6 months. And most of his jobs have been stocking shelves in retail space. And what we were looking for, the job that William does, is he packs out our orders. So we have teams that go out and pick orders. They bring the orders to William and some other individuals, and they look like you're bagging groceries at the store. What size box and how many boxes do I need to overpack these products going out to our customers? So we were looking for someone that had a high level of detail, someone that could look at something and put products into a box, like packing a suitcase or packing a car, going on vacation. And those characteristics, we met William from ELSA. He's an alumni of the ELSA program. And we had him fill out this form from a characteristic perspective. And we found out that William loves to build scale models. Great attention to detail, coloring them, everything. He also has a great ability to go out and remember movies or shows that he's seen that he liked over his lifetime. And he can recite passages or even the entire movie to you in the scenes that he liked. So in talking to him, we knew that he had a high level of attention to detail, and we put him in the pack job position that he's in today that you saw in the video. William's been there over a year. He has outperformed all of the traditional folks that we have ever staffed in that area because we were able to match the job competencies to William's characteristics, and we saw that that was a perfect match for his skill sets. So we've done this a second time. We've hired a second individual that went to school, and he got his degree in mechanical engineering. and it has the same type of skill sets as William. And we put him in that job, and as his journey, to start his journey within LACO, and he is performing at the same level as William after a 6-week time frame. So it's just terrific to see that going out and changing the model and really looking at what the characteristics of these individuals are and how do we match them to the job task competencies versus taking an individual and say, I have someone, I think they would be good for this, and just put them in there and try it. We really looked at what is the clear match so they can be successful, because their success is our success. And then as we're doing that, we build rapport with the individuals through their job coach. And then I take it to the next level. I build rapport with their families. So I have touch points with their families just to see how they're doing, what they're hearing at home. I've invited the families in to tour the facility, do Q&A sessions with them. And the responses I get from the family members is that it's usually tears of joy that their child is in a place that they can start to contribute and they feel proud and they're building their confidence. And I think it's just terrific to see the development of the team as they build their confidence and really realize what their true potential is. The job coaching piece of it, as we implemented, we worked with individual job coaches and had them come in. Even though we simplified the training, we wanted to partner with that job coach as well. And as we did that, we did 1 week of intense training and then reevaluated. If they were good, then we started to fade that support. If they needed more, we provided more. Because what we found is the more training we can do up front, the better it'll pay off in the long run. So we just partnered with the job coaches that they had. So the candidates that we got from the ELSA program, ELSA provided the job coordinator to come out and help us. And that was Garrett, who was in the video. Now some individuals, they didn't have a job coach. They had a parent. And they came in and evaluated if they needed a job coach or not. And then we showed them how we were training and doing all the materials. And they said, no, we think this should be good. We'll reevaluate if there's a need after they start. And then the other thing is we did a communication. So we have a daily meeting. So every day we start our shift with a daily meeting with everyone. And we talk about, did we accomplish our goal yesterday? So did we win? Were we safe? Were there any barriers yesterday for us to get our job done today? Here's what's on tap for us today, and here's what our plan is. And then we end with stretching. And then we go out and have one-on-one meetings once a week, with each of our people with disabilities. And after 6 months of employment, what we have done is we've created individual development plans. So they're all used to the IEP process. And what we do is we take that into a IDP process and say, hey, this is where you are. What do you want to do? What do you want to learn? And let's develop you a plan to get there. Because there's other jobs within the operation that you may be interested in doing. So let's see if we can get you prepared to go and do other things. Instead of just pigeon you whole into this one area, let's really work on your career. And lastly, so we want to move from disability to ability. So in the beginning, what we've done is week 1, we had the job coach. So Garrett was on site for the first week, 100% of the time. The second, as each individual started to learn and develop and build their confidence, and they all progressed at different levels, which was great. All of us do the same thing. There's no difference there. And we started to fade the job coach support because they started to build their confidence. And more importantly, they started to build friendships among their peers So their friends started to help them and teach them as well. And that's because we went out and did the survey and did the sensitivity training in the beginning and prepared everyone that we're going to do something different, and we need to do this as a collective unit. And then really 3 to 5 months, job coach was there maybe once a week. In our instance, Gary would come once a month just to visit. And now when he comes there, everyone's like, oh, why are you here today? And usually Garrett's coming to provide a tour, or we're working on other areas of the operation. And it really has helped us. Overall, the biggest takeaway for us was the more short-term work that we put in, it's been a bigger long-term gain. And that's changing the model. You have to, and that's what I've been sharing with businesses as they're looking at this. You're going to invest more up front, but it's going to pay back for you in the long run. These are loyal employees. They love doing what they're doing. They love having the opportunity to do something and have a chance to show that they can do something. Yes. Yeah, so in the beginning, I'm part of the senior leadership team. So when I was struggling and hiring people and finding folks, and I wanted to bring this to the company, the reaction of our CEO was, hey, this sounds great, but I don't know if we're ready or if it will be successful here. So I said, I'm confident that we can figure it out. And he goes, again, I don't know if we are ready as an organization. The biggest return on investment that they were interested in was on the turnover rate. So when I was able to show that our turnover rate was 44%, and now that we're 11%, which is better than any other area in the company, that took notice. Yep. Yep. And then the other component was, let's look at your productivity and then operating expense. And our productivity went up, operating expense went down. So those are some of the key indicators from the CEO that he was interested in seeing. Now that we have this program in place, and we created the video, and I showed the video to our board of directors and the owner of our company, and now it's very, very proud of what we're doing. And we're starting to get some accolades as well. So we won in October from the Village of Elk Grove Village a Best in Community Support for our disability hiring program. So great accolades for that. And the CEO retired, and we have a new CEO that has started, and he has a child with a disability. So he thinks this is just terrific and wants to further support it and get it in every aspect where it makes sense across the organization. So I'm done. I'm all open for questions now. I have questions in the far back.
Yeah, one question I have is, how long did it take to get traction, to show that it was, to get it going where you could see the results from the beginning?
So from the beginning, it took us to write the HOPE Handbook, it took us about a year. Because we did a lot of research, talked to a lot of companies, a lot of agencies, to really understand how we should approach it and how others have approached it that were successful and how others approach it that were not successful. So we wanted to gauge both of those. And I knew the Walgreens program pretty well. The Walgreens program, what they did and what Randy built within their distribution centers is they built a mock DC within their distribution center. So they took the same jobs and material handling equipment, and they put it in a room the size of this. And then they would bring in folks, and they would be there 12 to 16 weeks learning how to operate the different functions of the jobs. And as they built their confidence and endurance, then they would move them into a temporary and put the temporary out into real production. and see how they were doing. If they were successful, then they would work towards full-time. If they weren't, they would go back into the training program. And what I found is that there's a lot of businesses that don't have the resources or the funding or the space to go build a room dedicated to training individuals. So how can you do that within your current organization? And that's what we wanted to kind of build from the HOPE Handbook. We finished that in about, it was April of 2017. And then we kicked off the process at LACO, and we were live middle of June. And really, we were ready right around Memorial Day, but we wanted the folks that we hired a couple of weeks to prepare to come into a warehouse and manufacturing environment. So Garrett worked with them outside in preparing them before they walked in the door, and that took about 3 weeks. There's a question here, then I'll go in the back. Oh, go ahead, sir.
Can you just speak to your workers with disabilities, what, I guess, related to transportation, how they, I'm imagining there's probably a range, but like if you're aware of how they're getting to and from work, because I know that area of Elk does have some PACE presence, so there may be options for PACE, but are there parents driving them, are they doing like ride sharing, are they doing other type opportunities, because that's something that sometimes we run into.
All of the above. So some of our folks, they drive, and they're driving from the Naperville area, Batavia area, up in the northern suburbs. We have another individual that doesn't like the PACE system or Uber, so he takes a taxi every day. But he has started his journey, and that's Chris, the first one in the video with the safety vest on. He has built so much confidence that he is now starting his journey to learn how to drive. And then others, they have taken the PACE or the bus system.
So do you say there's an ideal size of a company in which this kind of model would work? Because I'm thinking maybe working business is too small or too large.
I wouldn't say there's a range on the size. When I was at Walgreens, we had a facility that had 650 people working within the operation 24 hours a day, 5 days a week, and 48% of the team had some form of disability. So that's a pretty big operation. Where I've seen other ones, LACO is 175 people. So I think it's not so much on the size, it's more about, is the team ready to manage differently, and have they prepared the operation to have someone work to the best of their abilities? There's a question in the back.
Yes. First of all, how do we clone you? My second question is, are you willing to share your presentation and some of the forms so that other companies don't have to start from scratch? I work for State Rep Musman, and so we're constantly talking to companies about employment for people with people in their lives. And it's overwhelming to get started, but this is so impressive.
Yeah, so we have, Linda talked about, I co-founded Teachability LLC. And we're in the infancy of building that. And the purpose of that is to do this program for businesses. And the way we costed it out, it's really, we brought it down into 3 steps, which is the assessment, preparation, and then the implementation. And then we have a support function. But those 3 phases would take about 6 weeks. And it only costs, depending on the size, it would cost about the same as hiring one full-time person to start a program.
Are you willing to do this at like an SBA meeting?
Yes. Yep. Yeah. So we're working at, and I'm writing. I'm learning how to write a grant because what I want to do is I love to get some grant money to go and fund implementing these in businesses that are, oh, that'd be terrific. Because there's a fear of the unknown. And that's one of the things I faced at LACO was the fear of the unknown. And how do I get over that fear? And if a company has to pay for that, they're a little bit more resistant. But if we can figure out how to tap into some grant money to say, hey, we'll get the folks to come in and do this for you, the grant will pay for it, and then we can source, and we want to partner with every agency across the Chicagoland area on all the different individuals, but find the right individual to the right job, and then expand it. So I'm mentoring a group of grad students right now, and we're replicating this program at True Value out in Harvard, Illinois. So we're at the phase of the preparation is done. We are ready to kick off the implementation. And they're looking to have folks employed by the March timeframe. So that's where we're at. But we're looking, for other components, but we're starting, and there's a lot of interest. So I don't know if everyone heard the question. It's that have we partnered or thought about partnering with schools to share this program, the high schools and younger, to see and give them hope of what the potential of the future could be, and see role models. We have not yet, because we're really trying to focus in on getting a couple more businesses up and going, and then start to branch out from there. Because my biggest fear is, it's been a great success at LACO, but my biggest fear is to go into a company, they go through all of these processes, they're ready to go, and the management team, they forget something, and there's a misstep, and someone needs that safe zone, and they're having a bad day. And that bad day now allows the people that have that fear of the unknown to say, I told you it wouldn't work. And then they stop it. So that's my biggest fear, and I want to put something that's robust to put in place to push through and get past that fear, because we all have bad days. Whether we have a disability or don't have a disability, and we're all unique, and how do we help someone get through that? So we have a very robust program, and that's what we're trying to do in the beginning, and then definitely go out. I know Linda has a question.
Well, I do want to tell people, first of all, that the HOPE Handbook is available online. I downloaded it myself. If you have trouble finding it, just email CT.
I'm sorry, what was available on
The HOPE Handbook, the actual handbook. So if you have trouble finding it yourself online, just email us at CTC and I'll show you how to find it. But my question is, have you dealt with, or do you have recommendations for people who might have great skills but they're nonverbal? So they could never ever do an interview process, never ever speak the way some of the employees that you're showing, but they could still do the job.
Yeah, so that's where we found, some with the characteristics, because you know that the characteristics, they possess all of this, and it's going and reaching out and working with the job coaches, and because the job coaches, they know those individuals, and if the job coach can give us a highlight of what we're going to be interviewing and a little bit about that individual, we'll have a better understanding versus just going in cold, because then we're trying to figure it out. So that's where we have not solved that, but in the initial, we're really working with the job coaches of those individuals or the family members. The last person we just hired, his name is Andrew, and his mom reached out to me randomly because she was taking a class with her son on supply chain, and they wanted to know if I would give them some guidance on a presentation that they were doing. And then she reached out to me again and said, hey, I saw your video and would love to know if you know of any companies looking for to hire someone with a disability. And I said, hey, just to let you know that we are. And so she gave me great insight on Andrew, and we hired him in, and he's doing phenomenal, just phenomenal. We just kicked off with, we're evolving our program at LACO. So on one of our manufacturing lines, we're going to dedicate 90% of the team on the manufacturing line with people with disabilities. And then what we're going to do with Elmhurst is we're going to have a internship program with the undergraduates, and it'll be a year-long rotating program. So each of their semesters, so fall, spring, and summer, an undergraduate student can sign up for this internship program. They would work 5 days a week, 6 hours a day, it'd be paid, but they would be the job coach and liaison on this production line to get them exposure, management experience, how to problem solve, take them out of the classroom and see them right in a production environment. And we're building this program now. I have not found any programs like this in the Chicago area or across the US. So we're trying to continue to evolve and change the model.
I just want to thank you for what you're doing, and the time has to be incredible that you're putting into it on the side, but
Nights and weekends.
Thank you very much for the
Thank you.